Welcome back to So You Really Want to Learn Latin. And today I thought before we move on to the next stage in this wonderful journey, I just ought to do a little bit of revision and check that you are keeping up with all of this stuff. Now, as you know, we are going through chapter by chapter through the course. But just occasionally I sort of cast my eye over an exercise and think, yeah, they'll be able to do that. And I see something and I think, oh gosh, that's quite hard if someone isn't there reminding them or pointing out, little things. So today we are just going to concentrate on a passage of Latin. It's called Exercise 7.6 from the book. And there are, just a couple of things as we go through it, which almost all you have covered already, and shouldn't come as any kind of surprise. There's one thing which crops up which I haven't yet told you, and I think I should, so when we get there I will, to do with the use of the future perfect tense, so look out for that. And apart from that, there's just some basic revision of things that we have been covering, and I just want to check that you've got them nailed. So the way we're going to do this, I'm just going to read out the passage and then translate it, going through the normal kind of steps, and I hope that as I do so you'll be following and thinking, yeah, that's exactly what I would have done. Okay, so I haven't got it up on a screen or anything, I'm just going to have to look down and read this. So it goes. Oh, and before we start, this tells the story of something we did in one of the history videos recently to do with Pyrrhus, and this chappie called Fabricius. So if you've looked at the history video, this should be reasonably familiar. Okay, here we go. Dum Romani cum Pyrrho bellum gerunt, civis Graecus captus est. Okay, now straight away I see something there which I can't remember if I've told you or not, to do with the tenses that Latin uses. It's a belter of a little thing which, if I haven't told you, I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you now. And if I have told you, I hope you've remembered it. And it's to do with this word dum. Okay, now, dum. I used to sing a silly little thing, dum 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 dum, while I'm singing this song, dum 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 dum. So that was just my way of reminding people that dum means while. Okay, so dum means while, but there's a little trick about dum. Now I think we did cover this. I'll have to look back and check. But dum is almost always followed in Latin by a historic present. Okay, so when it is referring to the past, while I was doing something else happened, the tense that Latin uses after that word dum is the present tense. It is a historic present, but they use the present tense. We, in English, translate it with an imperfect, while I was doing something. Okay, so we have dum Romani cum Pyrrho bellum gerunt. Okay, now that verb gerunt is in the present tense, but it is a historic present because it's after dum. Okay, third person plural, subject is a noun in the nominative plural if there is one, and sure enough at the beginning we have Romani. So, while the Romans were waging bellum war, cum Pyrrho, that's a preposition followed by the ablative case with Pyrrhus. Okay, so while the Romans were waging war with Pyrrhus, and then something else happened, and the something else that happened was civis Graecus captus est. Okay, captus est, perfect passive, third person singular, so the subject is he, or a noun in the nominative singular, and we've got civis Graecus. So a Greek citizen was captured. Okay? So while the Romans were waging war with Pyrrhus, a Greek citizen was captured. Is autem ad imperatorem Romanum nomine fabricium venit, ac sic dixit. Okay, now you will know that my approach to translating Latin is always go to the verb first. As our sentences become a little bit more complex, it becomes just a little bit harder to know which verb you're going to. Okay, so you have to scan your eye down the whole length of the sentence, looking for little commaed off bits, little subclauses and so on, aiming for the main verb. Okay, now in this sentence, we've got is autem ad imperatorem Romanum, comma, nomine fabricium, that's kind of, commaed off, venit. So that is the first verb we've got to, and it is the main verb. It's followed, just if you want to check, by the word ac. Now, we haven't met ac before. Ac is an alternative to et. It just means and. Ac, atque, et. They all mean the same thing. They all mean and. Okay? So, venit, third person singular. The subject must be he, she, it, or a noun in the nominative singular. Back we come to the very beginning, and we've got the word is. Now, do we remember is from is ea id? That's the demonstrative pronoun. It means that if it is used in agreement with a noun, and if it is not in agreement with a noun, it means he or she or it. Well, is masculine, so it's he. Okay, there's no noun for it to be agreeing with. It's not is puer or is civis or is agricola. It's just is. So it means he. Okay, he, now autem, do you remember, means moreover or however or not very much else. So we know the word autem just connects us on from the previous sentence. I tend not to translate it at all. So, he, venit, came, ad imperatorem Romanum. Okay, ad plus accusative means to or towards. So, he came to the Roman general, imperatorem Romanum, the Roman general, comma, nomine fabricium. Now, have we talked about apposition? Okay, now apposition is where a noun phrase, or just, a noun, is used to refer back to another noun that you've just used to give a little bit more information about it. Okay, so, and it would always go in the same case as the noun it is in apposition with. So, he, however, came to the Roman general, comma, named Fabricius, comma, okay, so that little phrase, nomine fabricium, is in apposition with imperatorem Romanum. The word nomine, remember, is actually just the ablative singular of nomen, and it means by name. We translate it as called. But look at the case of that word fabricium. Fabricium is in apposition with imperatorem. They are both in the accusative case, and they are in the accusative case because of that preposition ad. Ad imperatorem, comma, fabricium. Okay? Okay, so where have we got to? We've done all of that. Ac, sic, dixit, and thus he said. Okay? And thus he said thus, and he spoke as follows. Okay, into what it was that he said. Open inverted commas. Si, close inverted commas, inquit. Now remember, the word inquit is just the verb we use to introduce direct speech. It could be he asked, he said, he shouted, he wondered, he, mumbled, whatever. So inquit is the word we use. So, si multam pecuniam mihi dederis, regem Graecum interficiam. Okay, right, now we've got a sentence here with two little clauses. Si multam pecuniam mihi dederis. The word si means if. Okay, we go to the verb, the first verb that's available, which is dederis. Now, dederis is from do, dari, dedi, and it is the second person singular, future perfect tense of do. So it means if you will have given, right? Now, we'll stick with that for now. If you will have given, back to the object, multam pecuniam, much money, mihi, to me. So, if you will have given much money to me, comma, regem Graecum interficiam. Okay, next verb, interficiam, from interficio, future tense, I will kill, or I shall kill, regem Graecum, the Greek king. Okay, so the sentence reads, if you will have given much money to me, I will kill the Greek king. That's not the way we would speak in English. In English, we say, if you give me much money, I will do something. But in Latin, they're very, very precise. And if you think about that, they're saying, I will give you something, but only once you have done something which you haven't yet done. And that is exactly what the future perfect tense describes. It's something that will, in the future, have happened. Okay? It hasn't happened yet, but by the time we get there, it will have happened. So if you will have given me much money, if that business has happened, then I will do something. Okay? So far in our first couple of sentences in this passage, we've come across two use of Latin tenses, which is slightly out of kilter with the way we use tenses in English, and you just have to be aware of it. Dum, followed by a historic present tense, is translated into English with an imperfect, while I was doing something. And the future perfect tense in Latin is very often translated as if it were a present. If you give me this, I will do that. Okay, so two little things on tenses, and nice to know what we're doing with them. Okay, into the next paragraph. Verba tamen, civis eius, fabricium non moverunt. Okay, go to the verb first, moverunt. Third person plural, perfect tense of moeo, movere, movi, motum. So it is they have moved, they, or a noun in the nominative plural. Back we come to the beginning to see if there is a nominative plural, and we've got that word verba. Verba, you need to know it is from verbum, going like bellum, which is why it's nominative plural. You know, if you didn't kind of know that word, you might think it was a nominative singular of a feminine noun like mensa, but it isn't. It's from verbum, which is a neuter noun going like bellum. So it means the words. Okay, verba tamen, the words, however, civis eius. Right, now, civis looks a bit like a nominative singular, but if you remember how civis goes, civis, 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 civi, cive, as well as being looking like a nominative singular, it is also a genitive singular form. And that's what we've got here. We know it can't be nominative singular, by the way, because the verb was third person plural. And if the verb is third person plural, the subject must be plural. So a nominative singular wouldn't make any sense. Okay? So it is the words, however, of the citizen, and then you've got that word eius. Now, we've just dealt with is in the previous paragraph, and remember I said if it is used in agreement with a noun, it means that, and if it's used on its own, it means he, she, or it. Well, here, civis eius, they're both in the genitive masculine singular. So actually they are in agreement, and therefore that word eius does mean that. It does not mean he, she, or it. So it is the words, however, of that citizen. Go to the verb, moverant, or rather non moverant, did not move, and then our object at long last, fabricium, did not move, fabricius. Okay, into some more direct speech. Armis, inquit, non perfidia, Romani hostes superabunt. Okay, so we've got that word inquit, which we know means he said. So we'll deal with everything that's inside the inverted commas. Armis non perfidia, Romani hostes superabunt. Go to the verb first and we find superabunt. They will overcome. They, or a noun in the nominative plural. Back we come to the beginning and we've got armis non perfidia. None of that is nominative plural. But then we've got Romani. Okay, so the Romans will overcome. Who will they overcome? We want an object in the accusative, and we've got hostes. Now just a little word on that. Hostes could have been nominative, vocative, or accusative plural, but because we've got Romani, which is clearly nominative plural, that makes hostes sort of have, well, not have to be, but much, much more likely to be accusative plural. So the Romans overcome the enemy. Okay? And then this bit we haven't done at the beginning. Armis non perfidia. Right, armis. Now that is the dative or ablative plural of arma, which is a word that is always found in the plural, and it's the plural of armum. So it means arms in the sense of weapons. Dative or ablative plural, and we're going to go for ablative with, by, or from. With arms, non perfidia, not with treachery, the Romans will overcome the enemy. Okay, so the Romans will overcome the enemy with weapons, not with treachery. Okay, tum custodi, qui prope eum stabat, discede inquit, atque omnia regi nara. Okay, tum, then. Okay, now, you know, I'm always still one eye on looking for the verb first and so on, but custodi, I just know, is the dative singular of custos. So custos, custodis, common, a guard. Custodi could only be the dative singular of that word. So it must mean to the guard. Now, because I can see there's some more direct speech coming up, I know that it's going to be something like, and then to the guard he said, or whatever. Right, relative clauses, we now know about. They refer back to an antecedent, which is the noun we have just mentioned. And we also know a lovely little rule about when to translate them. And that is, you translate the relative clause immediately after you have translated the antecedent. So, then, to the guard, qui prope eum stabat, who, verb, the next verb in the relative clause, stabat, was standing, prope, near, eum, him. Proper is a preposition followed by the accusative case. Okay, so proper eum, that word eum is the accusative singular of is, id. It's not used in agreement with the noun, so it does mean he, she, or it. Okay, so, I mean, blimey, we're revising lots of stuff just by looking at this little simple passage of Latin. So, then, to the guard who was standing near him, open inverted commas, discede. Right, now that is the present imperative of the verb discedo. Discedo means I depart, and discede is the imperative form. So, depart, inquit, he said. Atque, right, I've just said there are 3 words for and. There's et, and there's ac, and there's atque. Okay, so here we've got atque. And omnia regi nara. Okay, not quite sure what to do next, so we kind of go to the verb, and we've got nara, another imperative. This one from naro. And tell, right, tell what? Omnia. Omnia, coming from omnis, so that is the neuter accusative plural, all things, or everything. So, and tell everything, regi, to the king. Okay? Rex autem, qui magnopere mortis est, multos captivos Romanis dedit. Okay, rex autem, the king, however. Now, you see a relative clause, qui blah blah blah. You translate the relative clause immediately after you have translated the antecedent. Well, again, I'm being a bit lazy. I'm not going looking for my main verb, because when I see rex, that is nominative singular. It has to be the subject. So, the king, however, into our relative clause, qui magnopere motus est, who was moved, motus est, magnopere, greatly. That's an adverb, magnopere. Who was greatly moved. Now, what did he do, this king? Now we really do need the main verb, all the way to the end, dedit. Gave multos captivos, many captives, Romanis, to the Romans. Okay, so that was just a couple of paragraphs of Latin, telling a story that we sort of vaguely knew about Fabricius. And on the way, we met verbs in funny tenses. We met isser id, sometimes agreeing with a noun and meaning that, sometimes used on its own and therefore meaning he, she, or it. We had a couple of relative clauses, and we knew when to translate them. We translate our relative clause immediately after we have translated our antecedent. We reminded ourselves that inquit is the word used to introduce direct speech, and that when you're translating a sentence that contains direct speech, you have to kind of tuck into the bits in the inverted commas and leave anything that's outside the inverted commas until later, typically just the word inquit or, whatever. We revised imperatives. I haven't used imperatives for ages, not probably since we learned them back in book 1. Okay, so don't forget, if you're going looking for your verb and you kind of can't find a very obvious verb form, and then you see something like nara or discede, they're clearly from verbs. Those are recognisably verb forms, discedo and naro. But when you're looking to see which tense and which person and so on, you're not really finding that. You're finding, aha, it is the imperative form. Okay, so there's a lot going on there to revise. We've learned 2 new words for and, ac and atque. So with ac and atque, you can use whichever you prefer, but just never try to use ac in front of a word that begins with a vowel or an H. Okay, so, quite a lot of good stuff in there. As we get to the end of chapter 7, I noticed that in our little revision reminders at the end of the chapter. Everything we've learnt so far, obviously you need to know, but just make sure, because it's been a big part of the last few lessons, you really, really know qui, qui, quod. Okay? Got to be able to do that. Qui, qui, quod, quam, quam, quod, quis, 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 qui, 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 quo, 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 qui, 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 quos, quas, qui, quorum, 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 quibus, quis, quibus, quis, quibus, quis, quibus, quis, quibus, quis, quibus, quis. And while you're at it, do make sure you haven't forgotten is, er, id. Is, er, id, eum, meam, id, eus, 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 eu, eo, eus, eos, eorum, 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 eis, 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 eis. Now the reason I'm really keen that you should know those two, okay, is that when we move on into chapter 8, the first thing that's going to come and smack us between the chops is another pronoun, hic, haec, hoc. Okay, I know you think I'm making these up, but really we're going to have hic, haec, hoc. Okay, so before we do that, please make sure you've got qui, qui, quod absolutely nailed and is, er, id absolutely nailed, and that you know how to use them. Okay, keep up the good work. Any problems as you're doing the exercises, don't forget there are answers available. You can either buy it as a book like that or download it from our website as a PDF. And hope it's going well. I will see you back here for more lessons every Tuesday and Friday. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you very soon.